So without further ado, I'd like to introduce David Ibbett from Massachusetts, our commissioned composer.
Thank you. Could I get my slide? There we go. So it's a real pleasure to be here. My name's David Ibbett. I'm a composer and a teacher, and I through the student composition competition, and I've been doing that for a number of years with my studio, and the kids have always got such a lot out of it, just having that deadline every year and the comments. It really nurtures people to do their best, to have such a welcoming environment to release their music into. So I was very excited when I got asked to do something myself as a teacher. As a composer, I'm really inspired by science. And in fact, I suspect most of you are too, right? Who's inspired by science? Yeah, everyone? Almost everyone. It's one of the great stories of our time. And it might seem that it's distant and far off in space, but if you've got kids, I'm reading about rocket ships every day and planets, and my daughter, who's 18 months, can say Mercury now, which makes me so proud. And my dad is a polymer scientist back in the UK, so I've always had it in my background, but it wasn't until comparatively late that I thought, well, maybe I can do this with music, because I come from England, and you have to decide what route you want to take. About age 16, it was, you want to do music? Okay, drop math, drop science, do English literature. I got through it. Do French. I think I've been to France once, and I got put on that arts track, and that's wonderful for some people, but it kind of took me away from a direction which ultimately has become my career, which is science music. So the piece I've written for you is called Heart of the Galaxy, and it's part of a larger project that I'm doing this year called Black Hole Symphony, and we've teamed up with the Museum of Science in Boston. It's a full orchestral symphony, but increasingly I like to do piano versions of pieces, just so I can present them, I can play them, I can feel them. And this started off as an arrangement, but it's really kind of become its own piece that is much larger than where the theme appears in the orchestral work. And this is all part of, if I go to the next slide, Multiverse Concert Series, which is a non-profit that I founded about 3 years ago now to do these kinds of science collaborations. Next slide. So there we go. You've probably all seen that. The first ever picture of a black hole. Doesn't look like that much, but you can see the hole in the middle. There's this ring of stuff getting sucked in. And that's sort of the popular image of a black hole, as this cosmic vacuum cleaner that sucks everyone in and destroys you. But really, there's a lot more to it than that I've had the privilege to learn about through working closely with scientists for the last few years. And if I go to the next slide, that is a better image of what we think it might look like. So this is flipped on its side, so the ring becomes kind of 90 degrees. And you can see that there's the ring, which is called the accretion disk, white hot matter being sucked in. Around that you have superheated gas, a torus of rock around that. Torus is a donut shape, which always helps me remember. And then jets of plasma shooting out at 90 degrees. So it's this incredible place that we can never go. And of course, we all know music can take you places. So you can sort of see where I'm heading here. Next slide. There we go. That's just a sort of a bit of diagram of this geography of this fantastical landscape that I'm trying to evoke in this piece. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this looks a bit scary, right? So science is all well and good, but eventually it has to get technical. And there's a point where you have to start looking at data, and that's where a lot of people sort of tune out. And when I first saw that, I tuned out as well. This is cutting-edge stuff from Mojgan Azadi at the Harvard Center for Astrophysics, and it's Okay, it looks scary, but it's basically pitch, what we're looking at. Frequency, which is, we all talk about frequency of musical notes, you know, that A is 440. But this is the frequency of light, and it's the full electromagnetic spectrum. And that's what we gather by looking at one of these black holes. And you can see at the very top there's a little prism. That's what we can see with the eye, that tiny little slice at the top. So if you look at this with the naked eye, almost all of it is invisible. We can never see it without some help. Okay. Next slide, please. So we can't go there. We can only see a small amount of the light. In fact, if you think about, if you know a little bit of acoustics, frequency, if you double the frequency of a note, it goes up an octave. One doubling is 1 octave. And we can see around about one doubling of light, 400 to 790 terahertz, much faster than the hertz we use for sound. So we can see just shy of 1 octave of sound. Next slide. Well, what can we do with our ears? What about music? Ears, compared to the eyes, have got this massive frequency range. That's how we can hear the very sub-rumble of the bass drum and the very top of the piccolo. 20 to 20,000 hertz. I've lost some of that top range, and I'm only 36. But if you've got perfect hearing, you can get almost 10 octaves of sound. So that's much more that you can perceive. So the goal of this project is, can we use our ears to really perceive what is out there in the universe through a process called sonification? You take the light, you translate into sound. So next slide. Sorry, this is probably a bit small to see, but basically what I end up with is that first graph becomes a giant chord, which represents the galaxy. And it took me the whole summer to write this one chord. And you've got a little handout. You can see it more or less in measure 18 on the handout. I'll just play it. The piano is rather good at doing large frequencies, so we spent a long time mapping the frequencies so that they would match. Oh, sorry.
They can't hear you.
Yes. There we go. Hello. So the piano is a great instrument, as I was saying, for getting large amounts of frequency. We can almost get the 10 octaves on the piano. All that data, we can hear it. And you can see on the score each kind of region of the chord relates to a different region of this black hole galaxy. So we've got the radio waves at the bottom, and then we've got the stars, the clusters of hydrogen, the dust torus around the edge, and then the light of the white-hot accretion disk, and then finally the iron X-ray line at the top. So that was a whole composition process, working with big spreadsheets and things to get that chord. I could have called that done, but instead I wrote some melodies to go with it. So that's what this piece is, Heart of the Galaxy, and you'll hear that chord a bunch of times in the piece. I'm going to play the full version, and then I've also made a student version, which is hopefully a little easier for my sake. And if I have time, I'll play that for you. Otherwise, you've got it on your handout. All right, Heart of the Galaxy, hold on. time for me to play the student one, or should we save that for another time? 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Yeah? All right. So I'm really not the best at writing educational music. The hard thing is to distill something from a wild kind of inspiration into something that works. So if anyone has any comments about how to make this better for young hands, I would really, really appreciate your thoughts afterwards.